Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, this isn't who I'm supposed to be? Not because you hate yourself, but because deep down you feel something is missing, like a fire once burned in you, but now there's only smoke. You smile, you laugh, you go through the motions, but somewhere inside a quiet voice keeps whispering, there's more. You try to silence it, to drown it out with routine, with responsibilities, with distractions. But no matter how far you run, that feeling chases you. The one that says, you were made for something greater. Life has a way of making you forget. When you were young, you dreamed without limits. You believed in impossible things. You were bold, curious, wild. But then came the expectations, the failures, the heartbreaks, the comparisons. One by one, they carved away your confidence. And without even realizing it, you started shrinking. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You started settling for what was easy instead of what was right. You stopped reaching, stopped risking, stopped hoping. Because hope started to feel dangerous. Safer to stay still than to reach for something and fall again. But here's the truth. You didn't stop dreaming because you stopped caring. You stopped because it hurt too much to keep believing in a version of yourself that the world didn't seem to recognize. You gave up on your future self not because you didn't want it, but because no one ever told you how to become it. So you adapted. You fit in. You became what was expected. But the pain never really went away. It just got buried under smiles and schedules. And now, here you are, wondering what happened to the fire, wondering if it's too late to find it again. But it's not too late. It never was. What you're feeling right now, that quiet restlessness, that deep ache, it's not weakness. It's not confusion. It's a sign, a signal from the part of you that still remembers who you are. Not the version shaped by fear, but the one shaped by possibility. That voice you keep hearing, that's your other self. The one who never stopped believing. The one who hasn't given up on you, even when you gave up on yourself. There is a version of you that wakes up excited. A version that walks with purpose, speaks with clarity, and moves with power. That version exists, and it's not out there in the future. It's within you, buried under years of doubt, fear, and disappointment. But here's the reward. If you stay with me until the end, if you truly listen not just with your ears, but with your heart, you'll learn how to find that version of you. How to remember the self that was never broken, only forgotten. Because life didn't steal your potential, it just distracted you from it. And once you realize that, once you begin to reconnect with that other self, everything changes. Your energy, your mindset, your decisions. You stop chasing things that don't matter and start building a life that does. A life that feels right, not just from the outside, but in your bones. This isn't about motivation for a moment. This is about waking something up inside of you that never dies. That quiet, burning force that says, I'm still here. Let's go. You don't need to become someone new. You need to return to who you were before the world told you to be small. That's the mission. That's the journey. That's what waits for you on the other side of the screen. And the truth is, the world needs that version of you. The one who leads, who loves deeply, who creates, who inspires. The one who doesn't settle. The one who keeps rising, even when it hurts. You weren't born to play it safe. You weren't born to fit in. You were born to break through. So if you've ever wondered if you're more than the life you're living, if you've ever felt like there's another level inside you, one you haven't touched yet, then listen closely. Because what's coming isn't just words. It's a wake-up call. Not for who you are, but for who you were always meant to be. That voice, you keep hearing, the one that stirs when the room goes quiet, that's not your imagination. That's the part of you that never forgot. It's the version of you that still believes. The one that refuses to settle for mediocrity. You've tried to ignore it, to silence it, to convince yourself that this version of life is enough. But it keeps coming back. Stronger, louder, more persistent. Not to torment you, but to wake you up. Because it knows something you've forgotten. It knows what you're capable of. It knows the dreams you buried, the goals you abandoned, the greatness you stopped chasing. It remembers the fire you used to carry in your chest. And it's not here to remind you of what you lost. It's here to pull you toward what you can still become. This voice is your other self. The version of you that doesn't flinch in the face of fear. The one that doesn't fold under pressure. The one who moves with conviction, who walks into uncertainty with eyes open, who speaks truth even when it shakes. That self already exists inside you. It's not a fantasy. It's not some future ideal you'll reach if you're lucky. It's real. It's you without the weight of doubt, without the cage of fear, without the mask you wear just to get through the day. And the reason you feel stuck, the reason you feel restless, is because you're living out of alignment. You were designed to stretch, to evolve, to rise. But instead, you've been playing small. You've been trying to fit in, trying to be reasonable, trying to be accepted. And in the process, you've ignored the bold, unfiltered voice of your own potential. That voice doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for perfect timing. It doesn't play it safe. It dares. It drives. It demands more. The truth is, Your other self shows up every time you hesitate, every time you say, I can't, and feel that tightness in your chest. That's not anxiety. That's your potential screaming. That's the tension between who you are and who you were meant to be. And if you don't listen, if you keep silencing that voice with comfort, with excuses, with distractions, it doesn't go away, it just turns into regret. But if you lean in, if you start to listen, really listen, you'll notice something strange. That voice doesn't speak in fear. It speaks in truth. And the truth is, you're capable of far more than you think. You don't need more time. You don't need someone to validate you. You don't need permission. You need to trust that the whisper inside you is not weakness, it's a calling. It's the map back to yourself. And yes, that voice will often sound crazy, because it will ask you to move before you're ready, to speak before you're sure, to believe before the evidence shows up. But that's how transformation begins, not with certainty, but with courage, with the willingness to listen to the quiet, full of purpose, even when everything around you tells you to stay where you are. So why don't most people follow that voice? Why do so many ignore it until it fades into the background? Because listening to it requires something rare. It requires faith, not in some outcome, but in yourself. It asks you to believe in the unseen, to walk into darkness knowing you'll create the light as you go. That's terrifying, but it's also the only way you evolve. Your other self is not some polished, perfect version of you. It's the raw, powerful, relentless version, the one that's not afraid to break first in order to rebuild stronger, the one that doesn't chase easy wins, it builds a foundation that lasts. That self doesn't just want you to rise, it expects you to, because it knows what's at stake. It knows how many days you've wasted wondering, doubting, shrinking. It knows that the clock isn't slowing down, and it knows that if you wait any longer, you might forget the sound of your own power, but not today. Today, you stop ignoring the voice. Today, you stop pretending you're okay with less. Today, you lean in, you listen, you move. Because if you want to meet the version of you that doesn't flinch, the version that stands tall, even when the world tries to break you, you have to start now. The fire's still there. The dream's still alive. And the voice, it's getting louder for a reason. Because you're ready. And once you answer it, once you start following that call, the world begins to shift. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You start to carry yourself differently. You stop waiting for signs and start becoming the signal. You realize you weren't born to fit into this life, you were born to redefine it. And the best part, you don't have to know exactly how. You don't need a full plan. All you need is one decision. I will not ignore myself any longer. Because once that decision is made, momentum follows. And your other self, it won't be a whisper anymore. It'll be your voice, your power, your truth finally unleashed. But here's the hardest truth. The reason most people never step into that higher version of themselves isn't because they don't have what it takes. It's because they choose what's familiar over what's possible. They trade growth for comfort. They trade purpose for predictability. And they call it being realistic. But what's realistic about waking up every day with a dream inside you and doing nothing about it? What's realistic about knowing you're capable of more and still choosing less? Comfort is a liar. It disguises itself as peace, but it's really a trap. It tells you you're fine where you are. Don't push too hard. Don't risk too much. And so you sit still. You quiet the voice. You adjust to the numbness. You learn to live without the fire. But the truth, deep down, you're not fine. You're frustrated. You're tired of pretending this version of life satisfies you. You want more. And that's not selfish. That's honest. Every great shift begins with honesty. The kind of honesty that says, I'm not okay with average anymore. Because when you keep pretending you're satisfied, you rob yourself of the urgency to change. You stay where it's safe. But safe never built anything worth remembering. Safe never made history. Safe never brought anyone closer to who they were born to be. There's a moment in every person's life where you either choose to evolve or you choose to repeat. Most choose repeat. Not because they're lazy, but because change requires you to let go of the identity you've built to survive. It asks you to step into unfamiliar ground to be a beginner again, to face your fears, not just of failure, but of success. Because let's be honest, success is terrifying. It demands responsibility. It strips away excuses. It leaves you exposed. No more hiding behind doubt or delay. No more blaming circumstances. When you step into your higher self, there's nowhere left to run. You either rise or you rise. That's power. That's pressure. That's freedom. But here's what most don't realize. The discomfort of growth is temporary. The regret of staying the same lasts forever. You were not put on this earth to blend in. You weren't designed to merely exist. You're here to expand, to stretch, to break through. And that kind of life, the one where you feel alive again, doesn't come from playing it safe. It comes from choosing the edge where fear lies. the edge where growth begins. Your other self is standing at that edge right now. It's not far. It's just on the other side of your comfort zone, and it's not calling you to be perfect. It's calling you to be brave. Brave enough to challenge the stories you've told yourself. Brave enough to confront your excuses. Brave enough to ask, what if I'm meant for more, and what if I actually go after it? That question is the key. Because once you ask it, you can unask it, it burns. It stirs. It pushes. It wakes you up in the middle of the night with possibilities. And possibilities are dangerous because once you see what could be, you can never be satisfied with what is. That's when the shift begins. Not with action, but with awareness. That quiet moment where you stop lying to yourself. Where you admit, I'm not giving my best, and I know it. That honesty is where greatness starts. And from there, the journey isn't easy, but it's worth it. Every step forward will challenge you. Every decision to grow will stretch you. But with every challenge, your other self gets closer. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you take the power back. And little by little, the voice you used to ignore becomes the only one you trust. You stop looking outward for answers. You stop chasing validation. You start moving with intention. You begin to realize that everything you've ever needed was already in you. It was just buried beneath years of fear, of conformity, of settling. But now you're digging it up. Now you're remembering. Now you're becoming. And once you taste that kind of growth, you can't go back. You can't shrink again. You can't pretend that average is enough because you've seen what's possible. You've felt the fire. And now you want more not just for yourself, but for everyone who's watching you, depending on you, learning from you. Your rise isn't just about you. It's about the impact you make when you finally show up as your full, untamed, unstoppable self. That's who you were born to be. Not careful, not small, but bold. Fearless, alive. And now you know. The only thing standing between the life you have and the life you're meant for is the choice to break free from the comfort that's been holding you back. The choice to chase the voice instead of ignoring it. The choice to step into your power, no matter how messy, no matter how uncertain. Because once you make that choice, truly make it, everything changes. Forever. The moment you decide to break free, the world won't roll out a red carpet. It won't cheer you on. In fact, the moment you start becoming your true self, resistance shows up. People might question you, doubt you. Some might even walk away. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've started doing something real. You're changing. You're shedding layers. And not everyone is ready to see you rise, because your growth threatens their comfort. But don't let that stop you. Let it fuel you. Every great transformation starts with resistance. That tension you feel, it's not a warning to stop. It's a signal to keep going. Pressure only shows up when something powerful is forming. And you're not here to be liked. You're not here to stay comfortable. You're here to evolve. You're here to wake up every dormant part of yourself and step into the life you were born to live. You've lived long enough in survival mode, doing what needs to be done, getting by, waiting for the right time. But the right time never comes. You create it. You claim it. You take what you already have, your energy, your passion, your vision, and you make the decision that this version of you is no longer enough, that there's more in you. That you're done hiding behind excuses dressed as logic. That you're done delaying the life you feel in your bones is possible. The shift doesn't start outside. It starts in your mind, in your beliefs, in the story you repeat to yourself every single day. If that story is built on doubt, you'll move with hesitation. If it's built on fear, you'll stay small. But when it's built on truth, on the undeniable, knowing that you are meant for more, everything changes. Because belief creates behavior. And behavior builds destiny. So ask yourself right now, what do I really believe about myself? If the answer doesn't feel empowering, then it's time to rewrite the script. Stop rehearsing defeat. Stop repeating the lies you picked up from failure, from criticism, from fear. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your setbacks. You are who you choose to become, starting now. Your mind is the gate. If you open it to doubt, you give it room to grow. But if you guard it, if you feed it with truth, if you protect your vision like it's oxygen, then nothing can stop you. The world can throw obstacles, but if your belief is solid, you'll rise through them. You'll fall, but you'll get back up. You'll feel pain, but you'll keep moving. Because when your belief is unshakable, your path becomes unstoppable. But belief alone isn't enough. It must be matched with action. Consistent, deliberate, imperfect action. Action even when you don't feel ready. Especially when you don't feel ready, because the gap between who you are and who you want to be is only bridged by movement. Not thoughts, not intentions, movement. You don't need to see the entire path. Just take the next step. Do the thing you've been avoiding. Say the words you've been holding back. Make the call. Write the plan. Wake up earlier. Push a little harder. One step one choice. One moment of courage, that's how momentum starts. And once momentum kicks in, it creates a force that carries you forward, even on the days when motivation runs dry. And yes, there will be days like that. Days when the voice of your old self creeps back in, whispering doubts, urging you to shrink. But now you know better. Now you can recognize the lie. That voice isn't truth, it's a test. A test to see if you really meant it when you said, I'm done living small. And every time you choose courage in the face of fear, you pass that test. You rise. You grow. You reclaim more of yourself. This isn't a temporary high. This isn't hype. This is a decision that becomes a lifestyle. You commit to becoming. You stay loyal to your growth, even when it's uncomfortable. You stay focused on the goal, even when it gets hard. Because the truth is, it will get hard. Growth is not gentle. It doesn't ask for permission. It demands everything from you. But in return, it gives you everything you've been searching for. Clarity, peace, purpose, power. That's what your other self is offering. Not just a better life, but a deeper one. A life where you don't chase things to feel valuable, you know you're valuable. A life where you don't need applause to feel enough, you are enough. A life where you don't just exist, you impact. And that starts now, with belief, with action, with discipline, with fire. You've come too far to back down. You've heard the voice. You've felt the pull. Now it's time to move. Not someday. Not when it's easy. Now. Because every second you wait, the life you're meant for waits too. And it's not going to come to you. You have to go to it. Relentlessly, fearlessly, unapologetically. The old version of you won't take you there, but your other self will. If you want to live as your other self, it's not enough to want it, you have to train for it. This version of you is not built through hope. It's carved through discipline, through the daily decision to rise above who you were yesterday, through the battle between your comfort and your calling and choosing your calling every single time. Discipline is the doorway. It's the bridge between desire and reality. Anyone can feel inspired for a moment. Anyone can write down goals, make a plan, or talk about change. But only a few are willing to show up every day, especially when the feeling fades. Only a few are willing to do the work when no one is watching. And those few, they don't wait for motivation, they become it. Because when you live with discipline, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop letting your emotions dictate your actions. You don't ask yourself if you feel like showing up, you just show up. You don't look for the easy path, you create your own, one step at a time. And every time you do that, every time you follow through when it's hard, you build something unbreakable inside you, a kind of internal armor, a fire that won't go out. That's how the other self emerges, not through one breakthrough moment, but through 1,000 small victories that no one else sees. The early mornings, the extra reps, the quiet sacrifices, the nights you choose progress over distraction, the hours you pour into becoming. Those moments may seem invisible, but they are the foundation of greatness. The world may never clap for your grind, but it will eventually be forced to respect your results.